Hey everyone, Noodle here. Hard at work bringing you individual reviews of the most interesting items on the Season 18 scoreboard. Today's ticket is the Vault-Tec train car. You will find this little controversial gem on page 7 of the scoreboard, and I say controversial because there's been much speculation on whether or not it comes furnished with train chairs and how easy or difficult it is to set up and decorate. Well, I spent some quality time with my train car, and I'm here to share everything I learned about this little treasure with you. Stick around to find out why I think this is a quirky item with much potential in the right hands. It's dark and raining outside, but in here it's nice and pink and cozy. Let me show you how I put together this little slice of heaven, what surprised me, and how I would do it differently next time. First things first, we gotta find a nice appropriate place to park our train car. Train tracks seemed like a logical place to me. So I went to Golly Mine and I ran up and down the tracks. I ran north and I ran south, actually holding my camp module selected so that I can see where I'm allowed to place my camp. And it seems like pretty much the entire track is wide open and friendly for camp placement. So I finally decided to park here so that I get a bunch of terrain, a whole chunk of the actual train track, and a little bit of this train car that comes with the environment. Then I busted out with my train car. And my first experience with it was a little bit awkward. This thing is big and bulky. The base is actually larger than the item itself. This belongs in the miscellaneous structures category. And we have quite a few miscellaneous structures actually that fit the same exact design formula. We have some sculptures. For instance, I have a beautiful whale sculpture, metal whale sculpture that's on the same kind of giant base. There are containers and kiosks and sheds that all come with this same kind of build structure. And while some people find them to be a nuisance, other people actually prefer having this giant stable base. My original vision for this train car was actually to put it on the train tracks, but I soon realized that because of this giant big heavy base, that's not actually going to work. It's simply not realistic. Even though it's friendly, you can technically do it. The game allows you to place it over the train tracks. But what I found is that when I move it over to the terrain part of this chunk of land, that it's one of the few structures that I've played with that's friendly with rock. So for a second, I considered finding a different location that's entirely rocky and just fusing this train car with rocks so that the base disappears completely and you're only left with this train car that somehow ended up on a cliff edge. And that's certainly a possibility. I hope you guys are taking notes and getting inspired for your own builds. But what I ended up doing instead is building up a base from floor tiles, regular floor tiles. And I discovered that moving this train car with the base that it's fused into over the floor tiles is extremely friendly. So you can build up an entire ramped ledge. You can build up an entire house and place this thing on top. It's actually very, very friendly in that regard. I was pleasantly surprised. This gives us a whole world of opportunity to set up our workbenches around the train car. The other thing that had me and a lot of you wondering is how those steps work. Meaning, do you seamlessly run up onto the base and then into the train car without having to actually jump? Or do you have to hover and loiter and use your jetpack and otherwise jump into it? And having done my first walkthrough of the thing, it is insanely friendly. I never had to hop and jump at all. So the setup is very friendly, but it's going to be very personal. And I think that's the part that will take the most decision making. Find the right spot first. This prefab, I feel, is very terrain specific. So it really has to work with the environment. I think just setting it up as it is in the middle of a lawn is going to look weird. Alrighty, now we have our structure. I like it. This is where it's gonna stay. Let's see if I am actually able to plug some of these holes. This thing is like a piece of Swiss cheese. We have 4 wide open doors and 2 giant big end of a train car holes that would normally allow you to move between train cars. And that's a little bit too wide open for me. So I was very pleasantly surprised that we can actually install doors in this thing. And this right here is what gave me the idea to turn this into a diner. I cycled through all the available doors, and as soon as I saw that, something clicked in my head. I was like, oh my God, that's the look that I'm going for. It's going to be a diner. I honestly, up until this point, had no idea that a diner is what I'm going for. But this door decided everything. As far as the big between the cabins doors, there's nothing that you can install there. And I don't want to leave them open. I do want to cover them up. If you watch any of my building shows, you guys know that the first thing I do with any structure is work on walls and any kind of repair or editing that needs to be done to the base structure before moving on. And you probably also know that I'm a huge fan of this particular defense wall. And I was once again pleasantly surprised to find out that these defenses will work inside my train car. So I closed both of those doors, turning them into walls. Later on in my building and designing process, you see the lights are already up. Don't worry, I'll cycle back to the lights. But later on, I decided that I will use this entire end of the train car as the area for my vending machine, for my Slocum's Joe vendor. And if I'm going to put a vendor there, I know that this vendor takes up a lot of space. If I'm going to put him there and have him take up this entire square area, this entire cubicle area, then having those doors on the side is a little bit weird. I don't want people using those doors, coming in and then smashing their faces up against the vendor. So I decided to patch up the side walls as well, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. I still want some light coming through in this room. So I used these wall decorations that are actually designed for patching up windows, but they work on walls as well. I use these quite a bit as well. The longer version didn't really work here, but the shorter squared off version worked really well. So I patched up both of these walls. That way nobody can enter through here by accident. It's not inviting as a door. And now I have this closed off space where I will ultimately put my vendor. Having decided that this is going to be a diner, neon lights were the obvious choice. I immediately had this vision that everything's going to be Slocum's Joe themed, and that goes with a pink color scheme. To use neon lights, we do need to run power to the structure though. So that seemed like a perfect opportunity for me to test out the new windmill generator and the telephone pole power pylon. I really like this pylon because it's ginormous. It's so tall. It's 3 times as tall as my usual tall pylon. And it has that twitchy, glitchy, electrical sparks thing going on that's very wastelandy, very grungy. I like it. And I just ran electricity to the train car on the side that's facing the hill, not the side that people will see. Very easy, very economical. I'm hardly into my budget. Now let's go in and decorate with lights. I think the neon lights look so good on these walls, and they're very friendly to attach. I had 0 issues with anything clipping, with moving my lights up and down, left and right. And as I'm putting up all of these pretty lights, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to everyone who's been leaving me super thanks messages on these videos. It's been an enormous help in paying off what I spent on buying the 100 ranks on the scoreboard to buy all the items for review. I love you guys, and you bring tears to my eyes with every super thanks. But hey, don't let that stop you. Thank you also to all of our channel members and patrons. As always on these builds, you guys all have a full-length recording of my complete process of putting this build together. So don't forget to check that out and give this diner setup a shot as well. Aside from neon lights, I found that our lit up billboards, the lit up posters that we have, also work really well in this diner environment, especially the Slocum's Joe Donuts and the Nuka-Cola Girl. And for the cherry on top, actually, literally as the cherry on top, as the very last decorating element that I added to this build, jumping ahead again, is hanging all of these paper lanterns. I thought they just gave it such an adorable and cozy look, and I made sure to rotate them slightly differently so that they look more natural, more organic. If we had paper lanterns hanging on strings, it would be impossible for all of them to face forward perfectly symmetrically. They would probably all be twisting and turning and rotating on their strings. As far as decorating, one of the things that I found to be extremely exciting here is how well certain elements merge with the walls of this train car. I was able to put up these corner pieces in multiple locations in the train car, and in some instances I was able to even fuse them with the wall. That is exceptionally cool. I love it. It looks like it's part of the original structure. It looks like it's fused. It looks like these corner pieces have been there for years. Now, this thing is surprisingly roomy. There's more than enough space here to set up a living room, a dining room, a workroom. All of our workbenches will fit in here. Pick a theme. You know, I went with an adorable pink diner, but maybe yours is going to be a really rugged man cave, or a gym, or I don't know, a meth lab, whatever floats your boat. This is so open to any kind of style just because it's basic and bare, so you can decorate the walls. You know, all of these windows can be patched up with paintings, or you can put curtains up. You can turn this into a motel room. The possibilities here are endless, and I'm super excited to see what you guys come up with. When you do get your train car and decorate it in your own style, please share it in Vault-42, our Discord server. We have a whole section for camps and also for selfies. So as soon as you have yours, don't just mark it as a best build and hope that I will find it. Actually swing by the vault and share photos with the communities. For the sake of a pretty demonstration, I decided to stick 100% with a diner look. Useful, it's not. It's basically a big glorified setup to my vending machine. So, would I actually do this in real life? Probably not. It's a curiosity. It's adorable, but there's nothing actually to do here. You can enter and you can sit on one of the chairs, or you can shop from the vendor, and that's it. Though I do still have a buttload of budget, so if I want to turn this into a functional camp, I would set up extra structures outside. For instance, my Nuka-Cola kiosk would work really well here. Set up some workbenches around the train car and really build out the entire environment around the train car. So I'm actually going to keep this camp. I often scrap the demo camps that I make for you guys, but I'm going to keep this for two reasons. One, there's still so much budget and I can turn it into a functional camp, with this being just a little interesting centerpiece for people to enjoy and to have this very epic walkway to my vending machine. And two, since I already started building it in the Slocum's Joe theme, I know from the data mines that there are a lot of Slocum's Joe items coming to the Atomic Shop very soon. So I'll be buying those. There's a whole donut display. There are those stools with the donuts, remember from the other video, Bud Donuts? The Bud Donuts are coming, so I can set those up, like by that bar at the back of my train car, for instance. So me, I'm going to keep this, and I'm just going to set it aside and forget it. And when I get more stuff that's themed, I will resurrect this build, and I will update you guys on all the things that I changed. And there it is, my train car all prettified to be a little wasteland diner. a slice of nostalgia in an otherwise mad world. When I saw this item, first in the data mine and then on the scoreboard, and finally actually in real life once I purchased it, I honestly wasn't impressed. But as soon as I started decorating, I couldn't stop and very quickly ended up with a beautiful and unusual build that I'm very proud of. And it was incredibly fast too. While this item belongs in the category of miscellaneous structures with a big heavy base, and that may be a turnoff for some of you, it is relatively friendly with terrain and extremely friendly with floor tiles. You do need to plan your build around the base though, and once you get your train all set up, decorating is a breeze. Remember to pick a theme, pick a color scheme, and just have fun with it. Thank you so much for watching. Remember that if you want to see the full build of this, or any other one of my latest demos, like the Leaning Tower of Busted Ramps, or the surprisingly awesome Raider Lodge, they're all up for our channel members and patrons. Noodle Pants, one half of Gamer Aviator. Keep building and decorating, and until next time, stay safe out there, Vault Dwellers.
In the heart of West Virginia, where the shadows creep and sway, lies a land of rusted dreams, where the brave dare not stray. Appalachia, oh, it's a treacherous ride, with dangers untold and nowhere to hide.